Hello everybody, welcome back to another Warhammer 40k battle report. I hope you're all looking forward to this one. We've got a new army on the table. It does mean some of it is unpainted, unfortunately, but it was worth the cost. Usually I don't like having any unpainted stuff for as little as possible on the table, but I think it was worth it to introduce a new army to the live battle reports. We've seen the Necrons in a tabletop simulator match before, but now it's a real thing. 1500 points of them, in fact, against 1500 points of Death Guard. Playing on the same table layout as last time. Let's go get straight into it and take a look at the armies. So we have 1500 points of angry, sadly like 50% unpainted living skeletons here, and they are being led by the Stormlord Imhotep, the old resin model, so there he is right there. It's a battalion, incidentally. He also has a Necron Overlord with a Void Scythe. It doesn't actually have the Resurrection Orb that he's modelled with because those are expensive. Then we have a Canoptic, or whatever they're called, Canopec, Egyptian names. They're equivalent of like a buffing guy. He has the Canoptic Cloak, which is what he's modelled with, so that's why he took it, gave him fly. He also has a relic, which I'm totally remembering the name of, and definitely not trying to cheat and look to my side. What is it called? Lightning Field. Also they're called Cryptex, that's what he is. He's a Cryptek, but he has a Canoptic Cloak. He has the Lightning Field relic, that gives him a 4+ invul, and if he ends his turn in hand-to-hand combat with something, it's a 50-50 chance to do a mortal wound to it. So that's the HQs. We also have 13 bog standard as they come Necron warriors. Why 13? Because that's how many were painted, I think. We also have 2 squads of 5 immortals, 5 unpainted, 5 painted. Why would I have the painted ones at the back? Sorry, brief cut there because Sora barked in my ear. Where were we? Oh, 2 squads of 5 immortals. They have Tesla. Everything that can take Tesla has taken Tesla, which is the like lightning one. Doesn't have AP, but the idea is to drown your opponent in number of shots as opposed to strength of shots. We also have 3 Tomb Blades just as they come. That was due to point limitations. We have the Satan Shard of the Nightbringer, who has a, well, I guess he and Mortarion are probably going to get into a scythe comparison contest. He's not going to win, but anyway, he does have a scythe. And he has 2 powers of the Satan, Antimatter Meteor and Transdimensional Thunderbolt. That's the closest thing Necrons get to a Psyker. What else do we have? We have Doomsday Ark. Absolutely understand why nobody uses the base for this thing. It's terrible, so it's just sitting straight on the table. An Annihilation Barge. Did I call it a Doomsday Barge? Because it's Doomsday Ark. Annihilation Barge, again Tesla, where Tesla can be taken. Canoptic Spider with twin particle beams, I believe they're called. Then we have, at the back here, 5 Lich Guard with the Sword and Shield setup, and 5 Death Marks, who may or may not be coming down later in the battle. Apologies if I got any of the names wrong, Necrons are relatively new to me, more or less. Let's take a look at the Death Guard. So mostly just as an excuse to see Mortarion on the table some more. This is the same Death Guard list that was used in the last battle report, but we'll quickly go over everything that's here. Mortarion is the Warlord. He is a Lord of War. He has the Miasma of Pestilence and Curse of the Leper for his taken psychic powers. He has a set Warlord trait, which is Arch Contaminator, or whatever it's called. Totally forgot to go over, but the Necron Imhotep Stormlord has a set Warlord trait as well, where, oh, which one is it? He gets strategy points back, command points back on a 5+, and I think he gets 1 free reroll at any point in the game. Only 1 though. I think that's what it is offhand. Might be misremembering. But anyway, he's the Warlord. That said, it's also a battalion plus he's the auxiliary super heavy. Lord of Contagion with the Fulgurous Helm, Malignant Plaguecaster, 5 Death Shroud Terminators as they come, Blight Drone, Blight Hauler, I've forgotten how many Plague Marines it is, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 Plague Marines for some reason, 2 teams of 10 Poxwalkers at the back there, and that's it because Mortarion takes up most of the points. Oh, Psychic Powers wise, the actual Psyker has Plague Wind and Putrescent Vitality. Again, same list as last time, so if you want more detail, I think I went into more detail there last time. We'll be back in a second with the rolled off deployment type and mission. So for mission, we got a 4, which is Hammer and Anvil, so that's the 24 No Man's Land, 12 and 12, in the middle, with a 24 and 24 deployment zone for each player, depending on which side they get. Randomise which Eternal War mission we got. And we got Big Guns Never Tire, which we've seen before. 4 objectives. Objectives are worth 3 victory points if you claim them at the end of the game. And also The destroy big guns means that any heavy support give up extra victory points when they die. The Death Guard have no heavy support, weirdly, just as because, again, Mortarion takes up most of the points. The Necrons, however, have 3 heavy support. The Canoptic Spider, the Annihilation Barge, and the Doomsday Ark are all heavy support. I think they also get priority. Yeah, they get priority for holding the objectives if it's contested as well. Other than that, the same 3 usual other objectives: Slay the Warlord, First Blood, and Linebreaker. We'll be back with deployment and setup of objectives in a second. So here we are at deployment, and we can zoom in and take a little look from this side of how the Death Guard have deployed. They basically deployed right up to the line. However, one of the objectives they placed for big guns is over there being guarded by the Poxwalkers, because the Poxwalkers actually get to do something useful this time. They've got the Bloat Drone there on their one side, the Blight Hauler and Mortarion right next to them. Then the Plague Marine squad is just behind there, so is the other Poxwalkers over here on the landing pad type thing. And their other objective, as well as the Plaguecaster, are guarding that. It's just behind them, but they're all ammo boxes essentially. In reserve, the Death Guard have the Deathshroud Terminators and the Lord of Contagion, who will be coming down at some point after turn 2. They're also sitting on, they've got 5 command points for being a battalion and 3 points for being Battleforged, so 8 in total. And from the other side of the table, this is what the Necron deployment line is looking like. A lot of their infantry deployed right up to the line. We can zoom in over here. We've got the warriors here, we've got the Overlord behind them, as well as the Spider. The Citan is just out of sight there behind that house, or what's left of that house. The Immortals there are guarding one objective on that platform. The Death Shrouds, the Death Marks, have just opted to deploy right from the turn 1, because the only thing they could deploy with during the match was the Death Shroud Terminators, and it didn't seem like they'd have a good chance of taking those out. So just deployed them in a nice overwatched position. Tomb Spiders there, as well as the Cryptek. I think I got it right that time. Cryptek. The Tomb Spiders, as I said. Then we have the Lich Guard over here with the other Immortal squad. The other objective is inside this. You can't quite see it from this angle, but it's inside that. So they're going to need to move up onto it because their deployment wasn't quite good enough once the game actually starts. And then right at the back there, with line of sight to Mortarion, is the Doomsday Ark and the Annihilation Barge. Now, because the Death Guard have so few units, they finished deploying first long before the Necrons did. So they got to choose whether they went first or second. They picked first. All that matters now is if the Necrons steal initiative, and for Mortarion's safety, it definitely matters. Oh, the Necrons seized the initiative. Okay, Necrons turn 1. So at the end of Necron turn 1, they shuffled forwards in the way the robot skeletons do. This is the Sotek dynasty as well, which means they can advance and then they count their weapons as being assault type rather than heavy or whatever else. Also, if they stay still, oh no, if they don't advance rather, they can still fire heavy weapons at full BS, I think. Either way, it didn't really come into play for most things. Over here, these Immortals obviously are holding the objective, so they stayed put. The Death Mark stayed put because it's in good firing position once the Death Guard advance. The Cryptek also stayed still. The Necron Warriors moved up with the Overlord, Spider, and the Citan Shard of the Nightbringer following close behind. The Nightbringer at the end of the movement phase used the Antimatter Meteor. It targets the nearest visible enemy unit within 24. That was the Plague Marines. And he did 3 mortal wounds to them that were not saved by Disgustingly Resilient, so that was 3 of them dead. The Necron Warriors also, the ones that were within range and had line of sight, which I think was 5 out of 13, they took pot shots with their Gauss blasters, didn't take anyone out. The Plague Marines did pass morale, so they're fine, but they're obviously 3 people down. Over this end of the table, the Lich Guard moved up. Tomb Blades are fast. Also, they do actually have an upgrade. Thought they didn't because of points. They have the evasion engrams, which just gives them an invulnerable save, I think. They have flying, kind of just, they hopped over here. They shot at Mortarion. They wounded him. Just, again, strength of shots. Mortarion only has a 3+ save base. He doesn't have a 2+. So just get him to roll dice and he'll fill some of them. So 4 shots each with Tesla. Shot into Mortarion because he's a big enough lad that he is not protected by the character roll. They did 2 wounds to him, so he is down to still a sizable 16 remaining. The Doomsday arc stayed still so it could fire its heavy profile, disgustingly resilient, save Mortarion though, so although the death beam shot right down the table, 72-inch range maximum, he was able to resist that, yet he couldn't resist little electric patter shots from these things. That's Warhammer, I guess. This Immortal Squad just moved up to have a firing line and also to sit on this objective. The Annihilation Barge with the setup, it only has a 24-inch maximum range. There we go, I found the words. So it advanced, kind of hiding behind cover because it couldn't do anything this turn, and it is a walking extra point if it goes down. All in all, they did some damage to Mortarion. Oh, totally forgot the important thing, the once per game thing. Imhotep can call the storm once per game. It's a rule he's had for a while. I remember playing against it way back in 6th edition or whenever it was. He can target a unit that you can see within 48. It can't be a character, but it can be something close to a character. So he called the lightning on the Blight Hauler, managed to get it, unlike when we were playing in Tabletop Simulator where he failed. It's only on a 2+ as well that it works. He did 5 mortal wounds to the Blight Hauler, leaving it on 3 remaining. Then on a 6+ it can affect anything within 6 inches. Luckily for Mortarion, the Plague Marines, Poxwalkers, no 6s. Oh wait, no, Mortarion did get a 6, or one of them did, but Disgustingly Resilient saved it. Either way though, the Blight Hauler is very badly hurt. It's a 1 game use. The first turn is usually the best turn to try and use it because that's when units are clustered together before people die. So yeah, fair usage there, I think. Necrons, did they capitalise on being able to steal initiative? Kinda. There is not a lot of Death Guard on the table just in general, especially compared to their robot swarm. We'll see what the Death Guard do then, in retaliation, in their first turn. So trying something a bit different and doing a turn recap before the fight phase, because I think the fight phases in this particular battle report are going to get a little messy. So, Death Guard turns so far. The Malefic, no, not the Malefic Blight Horror, the Malignant Plaguecaster failed to cast Psychic Powers, thankfully didn't. Perils himself still failed. Mortarion put the protection on him that makes -1 to him until the next Psychic phase. He then also tried to use the Miasma of Pestilence on, I think it was the closest target it has to be. Either way, it didn't do anything. Over here, everybody kind of advanced. The Poxwalkers stayed on their objectives. The Plague Marines, well, when I say advanced, I mean they moved forwards. They didn't literally advance. The Plague Marines also moved forwards. Mortarion shot the Lantern, which is his pistol, at the Annihilation Barge, and then you trace a line between the 2 targets and hit every unit in between, so that was the Immortals and the Lich Guard as well. Lich Guard didn't get damaged. The Annihilation Barge took 3 wounds, and, well, sorry, 1 wound that did 3 damage. The Immortals took 1 wound that did 3 damage, so it killed 1 Immortal. Haven't done reanimation protocols yet, so it's very possible they'll stand up. The Blight Drone moved up, used its 2 Plague Splitters on the Tomb Blades. Turns out evasion engrams are not +1 to invulnerable, it is -1 to hit, but if you're firing essentially a flamer, they don't roll to hit, so it made no difference. So the drone by itself took out all, well no, not all of the Tomb Blades, because one of them had 1 wound. I can't remember from where. One of them had 1 wound from something. Either way though, it still did 6 wounds. They have 2 wounds each, so they were dead either way. That's first blood for the Death Guard right there. A little disappointing, but hey, they were the only ones to wound Mortarion, so there is that. The Plague Spear, like this has a weapon I never use because it's got a poor range. Either way, it shot, didn't do anything. It used the Multi-Melta and the Rocket Launcher on the Annihilation Barge. Rocket missed, Multi-Melta hit. Didn't roll well on the damage roll though, so the Annihilation Barge has 4 wounds left. As far as the rest of shooting, the surviving Plague Marines shot at the Necron Warriors, only managed to take down 1, which is probably going to stand back up at the end of the turn. So now we're going to do the Death Guard assault phase, which is going to get messy. Wasn't expecting the Tomb Blades to go down. There was going to be a dual declaration of charging. Going to rethink that now and see what happens. So at the proper end of the Death Guard's turn, Mortarion declared a charge against the Lich Guard. They don't have guns, so he just made it straight in with them. Because they have invulnerable saves, he opted for volume of hits rather than strength of hits, and he wiped them out. He did 12 wounds, or 12 damage in total. They have 2 wounds each, so they were not able to even get a chance to strike back. He was wounding them on 2s because he has that aura that lowers toughness of anyone around him by 1, so that put them to 4, and he's hitting it with strength 8, I think it was. Either way, the Lich Guard are killed, so he then consolidated a little bit further forwards towards Imhotep. reanimation protocols are supposed to happen at the start of the next Necron turn. We're about to switch over to their turn 2 anyway, so just to cover it real quick. This Immortal was staying dead, this warrior got back up, and you don't roll for the Lich Guard or the Tomb Blades because they were wiped out entirely, and they have to have at least one surviving member to have a chance to return on a 5+. So that's the Death Guard's first turn. They did a lot of damage, they got first blood, they've wiped out the Lich Guard. Obviously Mortarion is a very big problem, however he's not in combat with anything now, so the entire army can now shoot at him. Let's see if he survives. So at the end of Necron Turn 2 it was very much let's all pile in on Mortarion and try and kill him. Also it's not quite the end of the Necron Turn 2, still got to do the assault phase, trying out covering up to the shooting phase first just because I feel like it's easier to remember everything that happened. But yeah, well, it's much quicker to just go over what didn't shoot at Mortarion real quick. Other than that, the Necron Warriors advanced as did, well, they moved. I need to stop using the word advance when I just mean move, given that advance is a rule now. They just moved up, the Overlord followed, Spider followed, everything else kind of swarmed over to Mortarion's general area. The Cryptic, who has 12-inch move on his cloak, moved over aiming for the Blight Hauler there. The Necron Warriors shot into the Plague Marines, killed one of them. Spider shot into them as well, but did nothing. They passed morale, but they have lost another one of their number. The Cryptic, I keep blanking on that word. The Cryptic used his Staff of Light on the Blight Hauler and did 1 additional wound. It's got 2 left. He's considering charging that to try and finish it off, but we'll see. So as I said, everything else that could shot at Mortarion, including Imhotep, the Annihilation Barge, Doomsday Ark, Immortals, I was going to say Lich Guard again, Death Marks, the Citan Shard of a Nightbringer. Mortarion has 6 wounds left, so he is bracketed heavily. He managed to survive the storm. In terms of like what did the best against him, Gaze of Death from the Nightbringer did real well. It did 6 damage on its own, I think. The Death Mark didn't do too well. I think Imhotep got 1 through. Doomsday Ark, I'm not sure if the old rule regarding firing arcs is a thing anymore. I don't think it is. How do his God's Flay arrays or whatever, like there's 1 there, 1 there. Does he count as being able to fire them in any direction if he's also remained stationary to fire his big gun? We did it that he could do that, so he fired his Gauze, because I think his Gauze did a wound but his big cannon didn't. If that was wrong then whoops. But I don't think the old arc rule applies anymore for whipping arcs on vehicles. That was way back in 4th edition, I think. So anyway, Mortarion heavily wounded. He's probably not going to survive another Necron turn. He does have 1 turn left to hopefully do something. Oh wait, no, sorry, no he doesn't, because the assault phase hasn't happened yet. What's likely to assault him? The Citan, which will probably take him out. Cryptic if it really feels like it's necessary, although he really wants to take out the Blight Hauler. Mortarion goes down this early, this could end up being a real quick match. Let's come back after the Necron assault phase, which I'm totally remembering about now, because we need to do it, and see what happens. Oh, that was an interesting end to Necron's turn 2 with both Scythe users still alive. When the fight phase began, the Death Guard opted to use the counter-offensive stratagem for 2, which just means that rather than waiting, because usually the person who charged gets priority attacks first, they go first instead. Mortarion's hope was to kill the Nightbringer first. Haven't been mentioning spending command points. The Necrons actually still have all their command points. Prior to using that stratagem, the Death Guard only had 4 left, I think. Yeah, they're down to 2 now. 4, that was all used just to guarantee psychic powers going off, essentially. A lot of investment into that and 1 for a save. So anyway, Mortarion attacked, and was it not for this roll here, which was saves because he lowers the Nightbringer's save and the Nightbringer doesn't have an invulnerable, which is why they're not as good as they should be in my opinion. But anyway, that was his save. So because of that roll, that many 6s, he lived and actually got to strike at Mortarion. However, he hits on 2s, he wounds on 2s. So he gets 4 attacks, 2 1s. That's fine. Rolled his 2 wounds for the 2 attacks, he only needed 2s. He rolled 2 1s. So he did nothing to Mortarion. He went from amazing luck to terrible luck. Ridiculous. So they're locked in combat. Mortarion is only on 6 wounds. Interestingly with Mortarion, he loses attacks, and oh, forgot to do his Host of Plagues. We might do that off camera. Anyway, he loses attacks when he gets weaker. His chance to hit stays the same, as does his strength, which is a little rare for things that have bracketed health. He also isn't in his lowest bracket till he has like 4 wounds left, so he was hitting in his medium bracket. Also, as it turns out, Cryptex should not melee with them. They're not very good. They only have 1 attack. Yeah, either way, tried to charge the Blight Hauler, did nothing to it. It did nothing in return, but big mistake there. Thought they were better than that. Apparently they're not. Who knew? So either way, Mortarion isn't safe, but at least he might take a few people with him now as well, as we move into Death Guard turn 2. At the end of Death Guard turn 2, prior to the assault phase, we have some new arrivals on the battlefield. The Lord of Contagion and his Death Shroud Terminator contingent are right on the edge of the map, because they had to be 9 inches away from both the Doomsday Ark and the Annihilation Barge. They're out of range to do anything this turn, but they are going to try and do a charge come the time. As far as shooting goes, well, sorry, Psychic phase first. Mortarion used Smite. He got double 6s. So that was both good and bad. Bad because it's the Pearls of the Warp, so he took D3 mortal wounds. He took 2 that weren't saved by Disgustingly Resilient. But it did a Super Spite, which means it does D6 mortal wounds rather than D3. He killed the Satan, Shard of a Nightbringer, thus freeing him to carry out a normal shooting phase. He couldn't move, other than his 3 inches, but he opted to just stay there anyway. In the shooting phase, he threw his Phosphex bombs at the Immortals and killed 2 of them. Their morale held. They might pop back up at the top of the next turn, depending on what happens. The Flik fitted bloat drone used his Plague Spitters on the Annihilation Bird. I guess I should turn him just so it's hit. Imhotep was tempting as a target, because that's Warlord, but Mortarion's going to try and handle that particular skeleton. Anyway, 2 Plague Spitters into the Annihilation Barge did not quite finish it off, left her on 1 wound remaining. But the Death Shrouds might be able to do something about that the turn after next. I think that was it in terms of like everything that mattered. Oh, the Plague Marines, the surviving ones, moved up, shot into the Warrior Blob, only took out 1, which may again get back up. So now we will skip ahead to the end of the Assault phase for turn 2. So with the Assault phase wrapped up, the Plague Marines charged the Necron Warriors. They took nothing in terms of damage on the way in. In combat, both sides were utterly ineffective against one another, which was a shame. The Necron Warrior, however, that was dead already, stayed dead, because at the end of the turn, going into Necron turn 3, just rolled then. It stayed dead, so they are now 1 man down, not that it makes a huge difference. Over here, the Cryptek failed to do anything to the Blight Hauler. The Blight Hauler did 1 wound to the Cryptek. Over here, Mortarion charged Imhotep. He can fly and he got a good charge, so he kind of hopped over here. Why did he hop over here? Well, when Mortarion dies, he does a lovely, gigantic, putrid, disgusting explosion, so you kind of want him surrounded by as many enemies as possible. He took 1 wound on the way in though, so he's down to 3 wounds remaining, and Imhotep managed to scrape by with 1 wound surviving after Mortarion took his blows. So they are locked in combat. 3 wounds plays 1, both warlords fighting each other. Mortarion's obviously got the advantage despite being heavily wounded. Over here, the drone charged the Immortals, did nothing to them, they did nothing back. Then at the end of the turn, the 2 that were dead from the shooting phase stood back up. So they're back to 4 out of 5 in total. Still locked in combat. Over here, the Death Shrouds declared a charge against the Doomsday Ark. They did not make it, it's a 9-inch charge. They took 1 wound from the Overwatch. So it's a very bloody match. Not sure, once Mortarion's off the field, things are going to be very, very problematic for the Death Guard. Let's move into Necron turn 3 and see what happens. At the end of Necron turn 3, there wasn't too much shooting. In terms of movement, there wasn't too much movement either, mostly just shuffling. The Doomsday Ark wanted to get away from the very nasty things on the corner of the board now, so they moved over here. It means he couldn't fire his maximum profile cannon. He split his shots, he fired his cannon at the Terminators to try and melt their Terminator armour. Gauze Flare Arrays shot at Mortarion, and that was what finished him off. Of all the things, it was just little Gauze Flare Arrays. Mortarion is dead. He only explodes on a 4+, so a 50-50 chance. Rolled a 3. Opted to use the final command point for the Death Guard to try and guarantee the explosion, re-rolled into a 3. He did not explode. That is Slay the Warlord for the Necron side. Mortarion is sadly off the board again. Did he make his points back? I hate using that as a metric for whether or not a unit is useful. In terms of like killing things though, he killed the Lich Guard, he killed... what else did he kill? Oh, he killed the Satan. He did damage to the Annihilation Barge, didn't finish it off. He did damage to Imhotep, didn't finish him off. But he did work, and he absorbed like 2 turns worth of fire. So, from the entire army more or less. So he did well again. Shame he didn't explode, shame he didn't hold on a little bit longer. Should also mention the reason he was able to get shot is because Imhotep opted to fall back. He did not want to fight. He was a little bit of a coward, but it paid off because that resulted in Mortarion dying. Worth pointing out, if Mortarion had exploded, Imhotep still would have been caught in the explosion and would have been killed. Because it's a D3 mortal wound situation, and he only has 1 wound left, so guaranteed kill. So he's very lucky that did not happen, otherwise both warlords would have died in the same moment. Over here, well, the death marks were going to shoot into Mortarion to finish him off, didn't need to when the Doomsday Arc took him out. They shot into the Terminators, the Death Shroud Terminators rather, killed the one that was on 1 wound, the rest are okay. Over here, the Annihilation Barge was sitting here, in fact that's his wound counter, isn't it? It can fly, so he just hopped over here. Why is he doing this? Well, Poxwalkers are sitting on an objective over there, and they're an easy mark. Not only that, but maybe go for a line breaker as well. So, the Overlord also moved over there. Either going to charge this fight, or charge that fight. So, we'll be back after the Necron assault phase. So at the end of the assault phase for Necron's turn 3, the Plague Marines were unable to do anything to Necron warriors. In return, they did manage to kill 1 Plague Marine. There's only 4 remaining there. Over here, the Overlord opted to help out the Cryptek and did indeed. He charged his Void Scythe, easily took out, well, I think it did 3 wounds and the Hauler had 2 left. It did explode, however. It has a 4+ chance to explode as well. And it did 1 to each of them, leaving the Cryptek on 2 and the Overlord is down to 4. We come over here to the other assault that was happening, ongoing. The Immortals were unable to do anything to the Fetid Bloat Drone. In return though, the Fetid Bloat Drone did kill 2 Immortals, and they're back on the floor. Oh, we're at the end of the turn, we need to see if they get back up. Oh, 1 got back up. That's the thing with it. Alright, we'll just put him there. So that one stays dead, that one got back up yet again, they're still locked in combat. Okay, we're going to move on to Death Guard turn 3, see what happens. End of Death Guard turn 3, and it is the end of the entire turn. They don't have many models left, so it was just quick enough to do the entire thing. Turns out when you lose Mortarion, all bite from the army is just gone, which it makes sense when he's a third of the army cost. He would serve better in higher point values, obviously, just wanted to try him out. Not looking good for the Death Guard after he's gone. Anyway, the surviving Death Shroud Terminators and the Lord of Contagion advanced towards the Immortals. They could still manage to take that objective. It's not super likely they'll get entirely shut off the board. We'll see though. The Fetid Bloat Drone fell back from combat with the Immortals because he has the fly special rule, that means he can still fire. So he opted to fire into Imhotep, hoping to kill him. Did not roll particularly well with his 2 Plague Splitters, so Imhotep still sits on 1 wound. Harassed, but not dead. And that was honestly all they could do. The the Poxwalkers rather, are just camping the 2 objectives. The Plague Caster are protecting one side of it. Oh, the combat over here. Both groups did nothing to each other. So, again, not much to cover because there's not many Death Guard models left. Obviously now the Cryptek and the Overlord here can do whatever they like because they're no longer in combat. So, moving on then to Necron's turn 4. End of Necron's turn 4, and a little spider is creeping along over here, using a little bit of cover. Not that the Poxwalkers have guns anyway, but still sneaking along as he wants to do. The Overlord came over here. This is the whole turn incidentally, because again, they're going much quicker now. Overlord made a charge. On his charge he killed 2. The Necrons killed 1. Surviving Plague Marine did nothing in return. He failed his morale and died to that, so the Plague Marines are dead. They moved up a little bit. Over here, the Death Marks and the Doomsday Arc shot into the Death Shroud Terminators, did 1 wound only, so one of them is down to 1 wound. The Immortals over here shot at them as well, just to try and stop them charging in, but it doesn't look like they're going to be able to. Imhotep only has a move range of 5 inches, so he's not going to get away from the drone, so he opted just to move in and shoot it. He did well, he did 2 wounds, leaving it on 8 remaining, but still not looking great for him surviving. The Annihilation Barge and the Cryptic, with their 12-inch moves respectively, hopped up over this building and shot into the Poxwalkers. Their combined fire took out 4 of them. They're fearless though, so they won't flee. Didn't bother charging them because they feel like they can just weather them down with shots, and left them as is. That was a quick turn, but looking good for the Necrons. Now let's see what the Death Guard do in their turn 4. End of Death Guard turn 4, there was not a shot fired on their behalf. In the Psychic phase, the Plaguecaster used Smite on the Overlord and got him down to 1 wound, didn't quite finish him off, but that was it over that side of a table. Over this side of a table, the Death Shroud Terminators and the Lord of Contagion charged the Immortals. They didn't try and shoot them, even though they could have, because they wanted to move in so they'd be claiming the objective afterwards. Easily annihilated the Immortals. They won't get a chance to get back up because they have all been wiped out. Over here, the Blight Drone moved between the Cryptek and Imhotep. He used his Plague Spitters on Imhotep and this time finished the job. So that is Slay the Warlord for the Death Guard, as Imhotep is dead. He then charged the Cryptek. In combat, they both just kind of butted heads. Nothing. Oh, he took 1 wound on the way in, so he's down to 7. But in actual combat, they did nothing to each other. Over here, the Poxwalkers decided to charge the Annihilation Barge. Why? Because the Annihilation Barge has priority since it's a heavy support. If it went over to the objective, they wouldn't actually be claiming it even if they were next to it. So they opted to try and take it out. It's 1 remaining wound. As you can see, they succeeded amazingly. They took 1 casualty on the way in. The Annihilation Barge didn't get a chance to actually hit because they went first because they charged. So those 3, 4, 5 Poxwalkers took out a heavy support for a bonus point. They also should have consolidated back 3 inches. We'll do that off camera. So, still up in the air as we move into the final turn for the Necrons. End of the final Necron turn, and most of the important stuff happened over here. The Necron warriors fired into the Poxwalkers and killed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. The Tomb Spider, or Cryptic Spider, I've been calling it Cryptic Spider, I now think it might be called Tomb Spider. Either way, it moved here, it has the fly keyword, it shot at the Poxwalkers and killed 1 more I think, and then charged up onto the platform to engage them, killed 1 in combat, leaving 4 of them alive. More importantly though, he is now contesting this objective at the back here. He is also a heavy support, so he has priority and thus he is claiming it. So the Death Guard have to kill him next turn, or that's a Necron objective. So that's the only important part. 1 Death Shroud fell to Death Marks, but they're still holding that objective. They're just going to camp it for the last turn. Over here, the Fetid Bloat Drone did 1 more wound to the Cryptek, but other than that, obviously on the final turn, they're just going to waddle back onto the objective. So literally the only difference, or thing that could make a difference in the final Death Guard turn, is whether or not the spider here dies. So we'll be back real quick after this combat. The Plaguecaster will also be casting Smite on it. Let's see if they're able to take it out. So at the end of a very quick Death Guard turn 5, as we said at the end of the last turn, Poxwalkers moved back onto the objective they were holding. The only thing that mattered was whether or not the spider over there died. Smite hit it. Smite did 1 wound, leaving it on 3 remaining. The Poxwalkers missed in combat, and the Malignant Plaguecaster also missed, so it's alive, contesting. Didn't even matter if it fought back. So again, really quick turn, but that's the only 2 things that mattered. We'll be back in a second with the recap for the match. So that was an interesting one as we entered the wrap up here. First showing of the Necrons in real life anyway, not counting Tabletop Simulator stuff. Against a very unoptimised Death Guard list, mostly just existing for Mortarion to do his thing in a low point game. That said, the way things stand at the end of the final turn, the Death Guard are holding the objective over here, the Necrons are holding this objective, the Necrons are holding that objective back in the Death Guard deployment zone, and the Death Guard are holding that objective. So still 2 objectives each. Both teams have Slay the Warlord, both teams have Linebreaker, Death Guard got First Blood, and Death Guard destroyed 1 heavy support in the form of the Annihilation Barge. Had they not have gotten First Blood, if the Necrons had gotten First Blood, it would have been a draw. If they hadn't got First Blood and hadn't killed the Annihilation Barge, the Necrons would have won. As it stands though, that isn't how things went. So the Death Guard have 12 points, and the Necrons have 10 victory points. So a narrow loss for the Necrons there. Probably not optimised. It's basically just what was assembled for the Necrons. But yeah, they did okay. There wasn't a lot of shooting on the Death Guard side. I was going to say I was surprised that the Necron blob of warriors, which wasn't even a full blob, lived as long as it did, but really nothing went after it because there was too many other choice targets for them to worry about. In the Tyranid game with Mortarion, it felt like if Mortarion wasn't there, it would have been a very hard loss for the Death Guard. If Mortarion wasn't here and there was just more guns, I feel like it would have been still close. But we wouldn't have had the scythe on scythe action. There's a lot of ways this could have swung. If the Nightbringer had taken out Mortarion that turn early, he wouldn't have been able to do that little bit of extra damage that resulted in the Annihilation Barge being so easy to kill the turn after that. So yeah, interesting. Usually we've been going by the winning army stays on, regardless of what happens. I'm not going to do that this time because we want to see Necrons against the various different forces. Hopefully more of it will be painted by next time, but no promises. So the Necrons will stay on, probably the same list again because of limitations of what's available, against some other army. Hope you enjoyed watching. Thank you very much for doing so. Keep an eye on the 40k specific playlist if you're not interested in any of the other videos I do. Thank you very much for watching this one, and I will see you in the future for more tabletop wargaming. Until then, ta-ta for now.